this doesn't matter whether it's Roe versus Wade, or whether it's who left the garage door open last night, or whether it's the fact that you haven't been there with, for me through these, miscarriages or whatever it is, or you weren't supportive of me when I've been struggling in my job, whatever. It doesn't matter. All of it is context. All of it is context. That's going to upset some people. Welcome to What to Say and How to Say It. Today, we're going to talk about two key things you have to know so you don't blow your family up talking about Roe versus Wade. In the last week, the United States has been reeling across state borders, within states, about the effect of Roe versus Wade. What I'm not going to do is have a political conversation about the Constitution, abortion, any of that. The thing that people need to understand, and this is all I'm going to say about this, is that wherever you're at in that spectrum of differing opinion, the most important thing you need to understand is that the enemy is going to use this to create division in your family. And so how much are you going to allow that? I want to urge you to, first of all, understand this is context for relationship. So in the last week or so, I've had all sorts of people talking to me about family members and their particular emotions around the decision, what people typically get pulled into. And this doesn't matter whether it's Roe versus Wade, or whether it's who left the garage door open last night, or whether it's the fact that you haven't been there with, for me through these, miscarriages or whatever it is, or you weren't supportive of me when I've been struggling in my job, whatever. It doesn't matter. All of it is context. All of it is context. That's going to upset some people. When you hear me say that, if you're upset at me because I don't care about the unborn and I don't care about God's will, I want to challenge you in that thought, because I do. But what I also want to challenge you with is it's not about what I particularly think about that particular issue. The issue itself is a possibility. And so we choose to engage in context, and we can choose to bring life by seeking to understand somebody, or we can choose to bring death by criticizing and needing to be right. So the first thing to understand is that this is about context. The second thing to understand about this is that if you have so much energy and emotion wrapped up in needing the other person to accept, hear, and believe what you believe, there's really big issues there within us. The degree to which we need to have other people think the way that we do, even if, okay, Jesus, yeah, he's pro-life, right? Okay, well, but the extent to which we're willing to get upset over somebody else thinking differently, that speaks to the issues that we have within ourselves. If I'm tipped over because somebody doesn't think exactly the same way that I do about this, then what that then means is that there's something within me that needs to be explored. Now, I guess I will talk about this just a little bit. When you look, like, for example, I don't understand what Texas is doing, right? That's kind of a political conversation, right? There's a woman in Malta who was flown to Spain because she had a miscarriage, and the laws in Malta forbid them from helping her naturally expel in a miscarriage situation. From my own personal history, I would have died I guess, because my husband was traveling. I had no way to get to a hospital or in a different state when I was losing a baby. So if I had to live in that circumstance, so then does that mean that I've committed murder because I had somebody do a DNC while I was miscarrying and couldn't stop? And it was, on the floor, stabbing me in the stomach style with a sharp knife pain, and that was back in the dark ages when they didn't even numb you up for that stuff. I mean, it was horribly painful, the solution and the problem. At what point, right, do we start fighting about these things? And do we have the ability to truly listen to where someone else is coming from? Or do we feel threatened because someone else has a different opinion than we do? And that's really at the heart of so many conflicts in marriage. Most of our listeners are Christian men and women who have been to all the workshops, read all the books, paid the therapists, and they're still stuck in conflict, and they're still desperate to save their marriage. And the reason these things exist is because they need to be right, or they're afraid of conflict, or they don't know what to do in conflict. And they keep doing the same things that they've been doing over and over and over again. This whole conflict in our nation is a blow up of what happens in a dyad. We're unhealthy in relationships. We don't have the ability in the nuclear family, the smallest community that we have, two people that get married. We don't have the ability in that context, in that community, to talk about something challenging and then navigate our way through it in a way that doesn't blow up that relationship. And so why on earth would we think we're capable of, as a culture, having healthy dialogue around this particular topic? And so if you want, and this is going to be my third point to you, which is a challenge. I want to challenge you to do your part. And I'm going to quote Mahatma Gandhi here, who I'm not saying I align with his religion. Please don't think that. He was a human being that had some good thoughts, okay? This is one of them. Be the change you want to see in the world. And so when Jesus says to us, follow me, he's saying, act like I act. The rabbinical tradition is to eat, sleep, and breathe with the rabbi so that you can pick up his habits, you can become like he is, so you can act the way that he's acting. And so then if we are going to do that, we need to spend more time with him. And I would leave you with that thought, that if you want to impact the world, look at this conflict and the stuff that's being thrown at you around it. It's not about that. It's people's pain and their fear that's coming out. It's not the actual cultural thing. People are saying stuff all over the place, and half of it or more isn't true. Dig into it, look into it, but it isn't about that. You don't even have to have those conversations. I'm part of a group of friends, and I was with them, and we have as most friend groups do, they have a stream of connections on Facebook, right, where you have dialogue and whatever, and we have a channel, and we're talking through all this stuff, and somebody says, I need to know what your thinking is about this, and people are chiming in what their thinking is about that. And I didn't do it. I was on an airplane. I wasn't participating. And I came back, and there's all this dialogue around it. And then I spent some time with some of these people, and everybody wanted to know what I think. And I responded to those questions with, well, where are you at with this? What's important to you about this? Because here's what it is. It's an opportunity to connect. Satan wants you to use this as a place to debate and argue. And I want to encourage you to not play. Don't play his game. Don't take offense. Don't take his bait. And instead, use the opportunity to ask questions. The people that I thought I'd have the most disagreement with, I actually didn't. And I didn't have to say anything contrary. I just listened. Maybe you've got some gems like that too. And I have people in my life that, this is really a hard time for them because of this decision. and because of their perceptions about what's going to happen. And I would encourage you to trust God. He's bigger than all of this. We all have our baggage that we bring into relationships. We all have our stuff that's out there. When I was raped in college, I went to the health service. Abortion wasn't even legal, right? I went to the health service and I took one of those pills, and it was awful, right? I have no idea if that was actually an abortion or not. I have no idea whatsoever. I'm also not going to judge the girl that I was back then if it was. I know who I am today, and I know that God meets me in this. And there's 100 things thoughts that I'll have in a day that, probably are on the same level as some of the other sins that I've committed. We're in process. We're Christians. We're growing. We're maturing. So have grace for where people are at. Don't let this become the thing that drives your family apart. You don't have to debate this. You want to go take action on it and create policy, that's a different discussion. But be careful. Don't let Satan ruin your family with Roe versus Wade. The thing I would encourage you to remember also here is that this is like a lot of other issues. It's been debated over and over and over again. What makes you think that you're going to be able to convince somebody today that your opinion is the right one? You might be right. It might be the right one. But the piece you have to understand is that there's a wide swath of what the possibility is, and we don't know, right? I do know that if you are more concerned with being right, this issue will divide you. And the relationships where you can show God's glory to the world by living in peace with one another, regardless of your differences, you're not going to win them to your way of thinking. You can't argue somebody into something. And I just want to encourage you to not let this cost you your relationship. This is something that's been hotly debated, even in Christendom, for decades. You're not going to solve it. And so don't risk your relationship. And if you want to learn some more things about dealing with conflict, like maybe this cold conversation is like, oh, I ain't having that one. Okay, fine. Absolutely. Maybe you have a relationship where you can actually talk about the concepts or talk about the Constitution or talk about abortion itself. Maybe you've got a great relationship and you can do that. But if you don't, and you want some help in navigating some of those things, go to our website, greaterimpact.org. And there's a short little booklet, PDF you can download. It's called Stop Walking on Eggshells. And that'll help you navigate some of the more difficult places where you don't speak up and ways to speak up when you need to.